Errol Spence dominates Danny Garcia. Knuckleheads, welcome to the Fighters Rep, where we give you free fights, interviews, and fight commentary from the mind of a promoter / attorney. This is our post-fight reaction live. We call it Get It Right Saturday night. So whatever you're partaking in, enjoy responsibly. So that being said, Errol Spence returned, and Errol Spence returned to form, looking exactly like the Errol Spence that we saw before the horrific accident. It looks like it didn't really have too much of an effect on him. He came in tonight. The first couple of rounds with Danny Garcia, I would say specifically rounds 1, 2, 3, or 1 through 3 rather, were relatively competitive. Danny Garcia was doing a lot of backing up, but he was also doing a lot of countering. And landing some pretty good shots. In fact, throughout the fight, Danny Garcia landed some pretty decent shots on Errol Spence and was able to get his attention a few times. But that being said, Errol Spence, relentless, threw more, landed more, and just, overwhelmed Danny Garcia with his volume and his pressure fighting. I mean, that's what Errol Spence is. For the MMA and striking fans out there, this is a pressure fighter. That's what Errol Spence is. He's going to come at you. He's going to keep coming. He's going to press you. And he's going to break you down, And Danny Garcia, if he did have some sort of game plan, it seemed to fall apart within the first 3 or 4 rounds because that relentless pressure was just too much for Danny Garcia. So, nothing really shameful about it. Danny Garcia's had a great career. Nothing to hang his head about. Fantastic career. Still a good fighter. Can still give some welterweights a run for their money. But that being said, I said it in the prediction video. Danny Garcia's a guy, in my opinion, who'd staled. He had staled, and we'd seen the best of Danny Garcia. I believe it was back in 2013 when he fought Lucas Matisse. Immediately after that Lucas Matisse fight, he had that performance against Mauricio Herrera, and I don't think he's ever looked the same since then. He's shown glimmers and glimpses of his former self, but not the same. And I just didn't think that he was youthful enough and just basically all around good enough to beat a guy like Errol Spence. We predicted on this channel a unanimous decision for Errol Spence. So, I'm not going to say I told you so. I thought it was pretty clear that Errol Spence was going to win. And that's exactly what happened. That being said, Errol Spence Jr., as good as he is, has a few bad habits, right? And one of the telling things for me in this fight was that immediately after the fight, they asked him, what he kind of wanted to do next. And all he brought up was his ranch and his chickens and his cows and taking a break. And he'd been at it for a while and he needs some time off and this and that, I think if you asked Terrence Crawford what he wanted next, he would say he wants Errol Spence next. So, that's worrisome for me, right? That's worrisome for me. Another thing is, I mentioned some of the deficiencies as far as his technique go. I think, and he admitted this himself after the fight, he does drop his hands a lot. His footwork, his footwork had some issues today too. I saw him off balance a few times today. There was definitely some ring rust in there. I don't think he's a fantastic boxer. I think he's a pressure fighter and his boxing is good. But if I'm being honest, we saw Danny Garcia turn it up in the last sort of, 10 seconds of the fight and land several clean shots on Errol Spence. I think if Danny Garcia still had the energy to put out a real punch output, this fight could have been different, because I actually believe Danny Garcia is probably a bit more technically sound than Errol Spence. Errol Spence, again, just, he throws the jab, he comes in and he brawls you. He kind of roughs you up. And it's worked for him until now. But if he runs in to a guy who's technically superior to him, which there, is a Terrence Crawford out there that I believe is technically superior to him. And if he runs into a guy that's not shop-worn and able to throw punches, you know what I mean? Because I felt like Danny Garcia just didn't have it in him anymore to get those punches off. I think a guy like Terrence Crawford has still got that. And I think Terrence Crawford would have made this hell of a fight, I think Terrence Crawford, from what I've seen tonight, listen, it's going to be a good fight if and when it happens. But I definitely favor Terrence Crawford after what I saw tonight, and that's not a knock on what Errol Spence is doing. What he's done has worked for him. But I just believe a guy that could keep up with his volume, that's aggressive and able to throw more punches and slightly more technical, is going to beat him. And I think Terrence Crawford is a guy that has all those attributes. Then again, it becomes an exciting fight because we've seen Terrence Crawford get caught and hurt a couple times and even, arguably dropped in that Kovalevskis fight. He also had Kell Brook, having some success against him. So, we'll see. It remains to be seen. Obviously, we got to get them in there and find out. But that being said, at this point, I'd really like Terrence Crawford, and I'd favor Terrence Crawford if they were to square off. But nonetheless, a good, solid comeback for Errol Spence Jr., as predicted, the unanimous decision over Danny Garcia. I think Danny Garcia, listen, as far as Danny Garcia goes, I think he's still got some paydays in him, I don't know if he could ever make it to the top. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think he'll ever make it back to the top. Maybe they'll give Sean Porter to Errol Spence next in a rematch. That was a good fight. They'll probably make that happen since it's all in-house at PBC. The fight everybody wants to see, however, is Terrence Crawford. Hopefully the boxing public will get that fight. That's the fight everybody deserves. But who knows what happens. But again, back to Danny Garcia, I do think he'll still have some paydays in him. I don't think he becomes champion again unless something special happens. Big shout out to George Estrada with the donation. Much appreciated to you, brother. He says, what it do, my boy? Modelo time, fool. Yo, I got some whiskey today, man. I got to go get me some Modelo soon, though, my brother. Appreciate the generosity, man. Listen, guys, anything you guys ever donate to the channel or any shirts you ever buy in the link below, they're going to get reinvested right back into the channel and into FightersRep Promotions. The most exciting and only kickboxing promotion that matters. This is one thing I wanted to say about today's fight. And this is going to be me shamelessly comparing FightersRep Promotions and specifically our kickboxing rule set to what I saw tonight between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia. Salud, by the way. What I wanted to say was, there was no urgency from Danny Garcia tonight. And again, I don't know if it's because he's shop-worn. I don't know if it's because it's boxing. And these guys just figure, fuck it, I'll just coast 12 rounds, survive, and collect my paycheck. I don't know if that's what it is. Maybe it's just the overall attitude of most of the guys in this sport. That being said, oh shit, my hair looks jacked up. How's my hair look, guys? My hair looks good or what? So, that being said, if you go to our playlists and you look at the last fight, look at the last fight that we had, the main event fight. It's the first one that's on the playlist. It's It's Milton Arguello, John Garcia. Man, there's a different level of urgency in our sport. You know what I mean? These guys are getting after it. Maybe it's because we do 3 rounds, 3-minute rounds. Unless it's a championship fight, of course, it becomes 5 rounds. But that's one thing I was really noticing about the fight today. You know, I said to myself, Danny Garcia's falling behind. Where's the urgency? Why isn't he in there trying to take this guy out? And then in the last 10 seconds, he just goes absolutely nuts and lands like 12 unanswered shots. I mean, that's what you should have been doing from the beginning, Danny Garcia. I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but just the urgency's not there. I'm going to head to the chat now. I see a lot of you guys talking about the Hermansson-Vettori fight. I actually didn't get to watch it. I'm going to check it out. But in MMA, there is that urgency, right? They have that urgency typically. And they do that in our sport as well. FightersRep kickboxing, there's that urgency, man. The guys get in there and they just want to, bang each other's brains out, for lack of a better term. And I mean that in the least erotic way possible. But that being said, if you haven't already, first off, smash the like button because that helps me big time with the YouTube algorithm. If you're going to help out, please smash the like button. Also, the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation, the most educated fight channel on the worldwide net web. The only channel where, as you support us, you help us build not only the channel, but the best kickboxing promotion on the planet. So let's check out what's going on in the chat here. We got Snack Time. Big shout out to Snack Time. Appreciate you being in here, brother. He says, Danny got washed, Garcia. Man, look. I hate to say it, man. He looked a little washed today. He looked a little washed up. And that was part of my prediction, right? Just too many fights, too many miles on the odometer. I didn't think he was going to be able to, get those punches off. It's a lot of times you hear the fighters say, I wanted to do it, but my body wasn't letting me do it. I think that's probably, had something to do with it tonight. Gus Fring, what's up, brother? He says Spence had the higher output, but Danny Garcia had the cleaner counter punches. He did, but that being said, come on. I mean, this was a clear victory for Errol Spence. I think you would agree with that. Big Money says, easy work, baby. Texas, we on top. I love it, brother. Big shout out to Texas. Big shout out to Houston, man. I actually lived there for like 3 or 4 months before I got out here. I had a nice little gig out there for a few months before I got out here. So shout out to Houston. Shout out to Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. John Wick says, wow, I missed it. Damn it, man. Hermansson versus Vettori fight was super fuego. You was right, man. I thought Danny would have done better. I'll be honest with you, John. I'll be honest with you, John, man. I also thought Danny Garcia would do better than he did tonight. I mean, I thought Errol Spence would dominate, but I thought Danny Garcia would put up more of a fight. I think if Danny Garcia would have let his hands go more, it would have been a much more exciting fight. For the first 3 rounds, you saw that. It was pretty exciting. I was hoping he would turn it up and realize the only way he's going to win this fight is by letting his hands go. Excuse me, but he completely, he didn't do that. Gus Fring says, I agree, even Angel Garcia was trying to put the fire under his butt. I even think Angel Garcia could have done more. I thought Angel Garcia was kind of relaxed, but only he knows how to communicate with his son. I would have been... I got kids, man. I would have been yelling at the kids. I would have been like, throw the fucking punches, man. But, I don't know, man. Maybe that's the way he talks to Danny. Danny seems like a quiet guy. Maybe that's how he understands stuff. But I just felt like there was no urgency there. Maybe a combination of a lack of urgency and the inability to get the shots off. I mean, maybe that's what happened. Kevin from Chicago says, George, the fight went exactly how everyone expected. Danny got outworked. I agree with that. My rent is due. I need super chat. Says it was a boring fight. Glad I didn't pay for it. Canelo will show you fans. Real Boxing on December 19th. I hope you're right, man, and I think you are right. You know, Canelo typically brings it. Sorry I'm a little slow this evening, you guys. I'm on that Kentucky bourbon, baby. Woo! Kentucky bourbon. What a mess. I know. I know. What a disaster I am right now. Let's see here. Kevin from Chicago, my boy, he says, I will say this about Jack Hermanson versus Marvin Vettori. Fighters can't be taking late replacements. Have to be prepared and smart. Vettori Hermanson was fire, bro, says John Wick. George Estrada says, your hair looks on point, my boy. Ooh, look. You guys see how it's coarse? It's coarse, and it used to be curly, especially when I didn't, brush it. It would curl up. But right now it's just coarse. And I appreciate it. Look at this thing I got going on here. Look at this. Shit looks ridiculous right now, bro. What the fuck? George Gus Freak says, y'all see that 6'5" super welterweight? Oh my God, bro. Listen. Fundora, I think his name was, right? Fundora. And he was fighting Habib the Wild Hurricane Ahmed, I think the guy's name was. Bro. How are you going to fly this poor guy, right? Boxing is a fucking... Listen. Hold on. Let me process this right now, because... Is boxing not the most narcissistic, sadistic, sociopathic sport in the universe? They flew a guy out from Ghana, right? You tell me. Maybe I'm the sick one. Maybe I'm the crazy one with the problems. They fly a guy out from Ghana whose normal height for the division. His name was Habib the Wild Hurricane. All right, I'm not even making this up. This is the man's name for real. Habib the Wild Hurricane Ahmed. The Wild Hurricane. That's the name I'm having an issue with. I don't even know what a wild hurricane is. Is there a domesticated hurricane and a wild hurricane? Who knows? So, I mean, they fly this poor man out to fight a kid from California. You know this is a setup fight. Listen. You know this is a setup fight from the moment they booked that plane ticket from Ghana to Texas on Trivago. The moment they booked that shit on Orbitz. The moment they booked that shit on Orbitz and you saw that boy was 6'5", okay? You said to yourself, and from California, you said to yourself, oh no, man. You said to yourself, why are they doing Habib this way, man? Habib is my boy. Why are they doing this to Habib? You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, they ruin this guy's life. And I've talked about this before. They do this all the time. They either take these kids to a foreign country or bring these guys with a snowball's chance in hell. They bring them over here. And these guys, they come with delusions of grandeur, a gleam in their eye. They're thinking to themselves, man, I'm about to kill it in America. I'm about to get my big chance. I'm about to take my family, set them up, take them to the next level. And, and they put you in front of a 6'5". They put you in front of a 6'5", future freaking killer star, man, that just bangs you out in front of everybody in the matter of a few minutes. I mean, it's just it's the saddest thing. It's the saddest thing. And then everybody acts. There's still a little bit left in here. And then everybody acts, right? Like, oh, man, he just banged the Wild Hurricane out of there, man. Damn. He must be good to bang the Wild Hurricane out. I don't know, man. I don't know. So, yeah, I saw his big 6'5" ass. That's a big boy, and that's not somebody you want to box with. My rent is due. I need super chat. Says Garcia just needs a new trainer. I think he's over the hill, man. I got to be honest with you. My rent is due. I think he's over the hill. By the way, if you guys haven't, please subscribe on, follow, not subscribe. Follow on Twitter, Facebook. Let me see if I get the last one. Instagram. Follow. We're a FightersRep on all of those, so be sure you follow. Let me see here. You buzzing, buddy. You damn right I am. Hawker Mustang says, cheers, brother. Kirky Ivan. Cheers, my brother. Big shout out to Ivan, my boy. Kevin from Chicago says, cheers, brother. Much love to Chicago. Buried Rhyme says, another fight with no buzz. That's kind of a boring fight for real, man. John Wick says, ha. You're killing me, George. Miguel Gonzalez says, Fundora versus Munguia. Thoughts? Listen, Fundora's going to be a force to be reckoned with if they move him along properly. I think he needs, a fight or two more before he gets in there with a guy like Munguia. Munguia, is okay. It would be a good fight regardless, but I just feel like Munguia's had the opportunity to have better experience. You don't want to put a kid like Fundora in there, right now after he beat, the Wild Hurricane. In there against a guy in Munguia who, for years now has been, beating pretty decent guys. I mean, let's not forget Munguia. I believe it was Munguia who beat Saddam Ali for a title, years ago. So Munguia's had, a few years of good experience. They're not at the same stage right now. You need to even out the experience field and then put them in with each other. Unless Fundora wants it. Listen, as a promoter, I like to make even fights because when you make even fights, it brings out the best in the guys. They put on the best performance, at least typically, and that's what I like to do. So as a promoter, I don't like to put guys in there that have a disparate experience, a disparate record, but if one of the guys really wants it, sometimes you come across these guys that are very tough, they're capable, and they just want it, man. They want to fight that guy. They want to show you that they can beat that guy, and they want to show themselves and that guy that they could beat that guy. I'll make it happen. So, I mean, if Fundora wanted it that bad, maybe. But I just feel like right now they're not at the same level. Kevin from Chicago says Slender Man. Hawker Mustang says 100%. One of Miguel Gonzalez's messages was retracted. Kevin from Chicago says absolutely. George fed Hurricane to Slender Man. Another mismatch in boxing. That's all it is. Kirky Ivan says pour the glass. For sure, brother. Phone Jack says, let's be honest. Danny is better than everyone on Bud's resume. He is. Danny is better than everyone on Bud's resume. But Danny's at a point, Phone Jack. Danny's at a point right now in his career where he's already in the twilight. He's not the Danny Garcia of yesteryear, my brother. He's not there no more. So it doesn't matter how good your resume is if you're not the same guy anymore. You know what I mean? But I hear what you're saying. John Wick says, have a great night, George. Great show tonight, my friend. Time for meds. LOL, I got to get some sleep. John Wick, man. Hey, guys, wish John Wick good health and quick recovery. He was in an accident, just got out the hospital. Shout out to John Wick. We got love for you. in Knucklehead Nation. John, heal up, brother. Take care of yourself. Go to bed. We'll see you tomorrow. Phone Jack says, I still favor Bud to beat Errol slightly, but Errol is the A side. I agree with that. George Estrada from 1 to 10. How buzz are you? Oh, man. I got to say, buzz, I got to be at a 7 right now. I was at an 8, but it's slowly, it's slowly coming down. Hawker Mustang says, Danny is a gatekeeper now. I agree with that. And that's not what you want to be. But if you can get paid doing it, why not? Buried Rhymes with the boxing gloves. Shout out. Kevin from Chicago says, what's the next boxing fight to look forward to besides Canelo? Well, we've got, let's not forget, we got Anthony Joshua fighting Kubrat Pulev, right? And the winner of that fight is going to be taking on Tyson Fury, I believe. So that's going to be a fantastic event there. Listen, I'm curious to see Anthony Joshua. And the reason I'm curious to see him, and I've told you guys this, by the way, Larry Rosaline says, good analysis, bro. Good afternoon from the Philippines. Salamat, my brother. Shout out to the Philippines. Much love to you. Thank you. So I was saying about AJ. The reason I'm curious to see AJ, you guys, is because AJ fought a certain way, right? Until he ran into Andy Ruiz. AJ was the kind of guy that just kind of walked you down and banged you out. That's the guy he was. The only person to give him some resistance prior to Andy Ruiz was Vladimir Klitschko, who almost got him out of there. He was able to get through that. He was able to be smart, slow down the tempo. Klitschko didn't jump on him. He was able to get through that. Hear me out on this one. Then he was supposed to fight Jarrell Big Baby Miller. We all know Big Baby Miller pissed right through the cup with whatever the hell he was taking. And Andy Ruiz got put in there. AJ continued that same fighting style against Andy Ruiz until it got to the third round, or whatever round it was, I believe it was the third, where he got exposed, right? Not exposed, but he got knocked out using that fighting style where he would just, plod forward and walk people down and just bang them out. He got caught. He gets knocked out. They run the rematch right away. He knows what's at stake. He knows he's got to change. He knows he can't just stand in there on the inside with Ruiz, because Ruiz, for the first time in his life, he ran into somebody that was stronger than him, more solid than he was on the inside, and that was Andy Ruiz. Ruiz was that guy. So he changed his fighting style for Ruiz. Now, here's the thing. When he got knocked out, right, did it compromise his chin? Did it compromise his mentality? Because this is the stuff that happens. This is the stuff that I see in the background as a promoter, as a guy who deals with fighters, as a guy that, goes to the gym and trains, although it's been a minute, with the fighters, with some of the fighters that I work with. Is that mentality compromised now? Because he changed the way he fought for the rematch. He changed. He needed to change. He couldn't stand in there on the inside anymore. He was bouncing around. He was moving around nonstop. He slimmed down. His body changed. Everything about him changed. When he got caught in that fight, the few times Andy Ruiz was able to catch him in the rematch, he looked a little more fragile than we're used to seeing, right? So that's my concern. Is Anthony Joshua now a changed fighter permanently? And is he more fragile? And Kubrat Pulev is a guy, if you guys don't know, who was, I believe a medalist in the Olympics. I believe Kubrat Pulev may have even won a gold medal. And the only person to ever beat Kubrat Pulev was Vladimir Klitschko, who, caught him flush. I believe it was with a big hook and knocked him out. But Pulev came back and won. He came back and won, and he won against some pretty good guys. I think he even beat Derek Chisora after that. So he's still a high-level heavyweight, right? He's still a guy with a really good amateur pedigree and really good experience. And he's a guy who hits hard enough and has enough boxing skill that he poses a legitimate threat to Anthony Joshua, especially if Anthony Joshua is now a compromised fighter. And that is my intrigue for wanting to tune in to the AJ versus Pulev fight, because I want to know, if he gets in there and mixes it up with AJ, can he land a hurtful shot? And will that shot affect AJ more than it would have prior to the Andy Ruiz knockout? And then you got to wonder, like Kevin from Chicago saying, he says, great point, wonder how AJ approaches Pulev. Think Pulev's too slow to catch Joshua, but he's a great right hand. I mean, he's not that slow, Pulev, He's not that slow. Listen, Joshua wasn't known as a speedster. He was bouncing around and moving around against Ruiz in the rematch because he was afraid to stay on the inside. But he's not a speedster either. So I think Pulev can definitely catch him. It's just going to be a very interesting watch, you guys. And there's so much at stake. Anthony Joshua, here's one thing that I got to say about Anthony Joshua, man. He's got balls of steel. You know what I mean? Going into that rematch with Andy Ruiz, getting up from almost being finished by Vladimir Klitschko. After that, rematch from Andy Ruiz, stepping in right away to take on a guy in Kubrat Pulev, learning on the job. I mean, the guy needs to be respected. You cannot knock the guy. If American heavyweights behaved the way Anthony Joshua behaved, things would be different right now. Miguel Gonzalez says, AJ, I feel fought that way because of the level of opposition. Felt comfortable walking you down and knocking you out. But look, when he fought Vladimir Klitschko, although Klitschko had lost to Fury, Vladimir Klitschko was still a very dangerous guy. That is the way that AJ fights, right? But he knew he could not fight that way against Andy Ruiz. He knew that Andy Ruiz's only chance was to beat him on the inside, and Andy Ruiz was too sturdy for him to stand there and try to bang it out with him. Heavyweight boxing is always interesting. One shot, Bob. Yep. I agree. So, knuckleheads, if you haven't already, smash the like button. There's 21 of you in here. If you didn't smash the like button, you're full of shit. Also, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation. Show some love. That's pretty much all I've got for you guys this evening. Now I got to go check out that Vettori Hermanson fight. Let you guys know what I think about all those tomorrow. If you're watching this on the replay or right now, whenever, tell me what you think about Errol Spence Jr. That's my ask for you. Versus Terrence Crawford. Who do you think wins that fight after what you saw tonight? I say it's Terrence Crawford. Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, you all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.